That big wheel keep on turning. Primary keep on burning. And we're rolling, rolling, yeah.
Welcome, everybody. This is the first hug of the year. Although we are an LA hug, we are inclusive, and we know that we have members from diverse locations all over. So welcome, everyone. Just a few little admin notes to start this webinar is that hugs, understandably, they will be remote throughout the end of the year. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say your knowledge is of the Flywheel methodology?
Do you want us to put that in the chat?
Yes, please. Okay, so it looks like it runs the gamut, but for the most part, it looks like the majority of you guys feel fairly comfortable in your understanding of it. You're all gauging about an 8. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch into what we're going to cover during this session. We'll start with a full overview of the methodology and Flywheel and how it fits together. Dive deeper in, covering force and friction, and then we'll do an activity where you draw your own flywheel. Now, as you think about what you want to get out of this session, this is our intention for you. Now, quick intros to your hug hosts for today. Latal here, she's the CEO at Matter Marketing, and I am the lead strategist here at Matter Marketing. You can see we have a thing about broccoli.
And also about Starbucks mugs. We both collect the city mugs from all over the world.
And that's why that's there.
Okay, so we're going to start today by talking about the inbound methodology. Obviously, all of us are HubSpot users. We've all learned and know the inbound methodology, but we're going to talk about it as we knew it before and as it's shifted these days into the Flywheel. So this is kind of the funnel we've all known, right? That inbound methodology is about attracting, converting, closing, and delighting. These are some of the different channels we use and how we've always done it. So these days, if we look at the funnel as we've always thought about it, right? We understand that the funnel is less efficient. My father actually is a physicist. So my whole life I've grown up with the physicist on one side of my head, right? So when we take the funnel and we're pouring into it and things are spilling out of the sides and only a few customers come out of the bottom, that's a less efficient way of looking at things. So today, we understand that growth and customers are what's at the center of our flywheel. I have a little flywheel here I can share. And everything else really revolves around that. And we're going to come back to the prop in a minute. But I want to ask you guys another question. And if you'd put your answers in the chat, that would be great. What are your best sources of attracting in the old lexicon? What are your best sources of attracting people to your business? So go ahead and put that in the chat. Yep, just like we thought. So HubSpot actually did a survey, oops, wrong way, a survey about this for their SMB customers. And they found that word of mouth, customer referrals are the biggest driver of growth for these size businesses. Now, quality over quantity, right? So you could funnel tons and tons of money into online advertising, but those leads are never going to be as good as the word of mouth leads.
Right. So with the Flywheel, the traditional model of assigning inbound lead stages to a particular department, like the attract stage being the responsibility of marketing, and then the stage after that being responsibility of sales. That no longer works. The onus now is on every department in the company in this flywheel model. So as you think about an example to share of your own organization's attract stage, here are a few to consider. Now, Latal, would you be able to share an example of how any department can attract a customer?
Sure. So, so our service organization actually recently, when we onboard a new agency client, after the marketing department has been long done, sales department is done, and we hand them over to the service organization to deliver the project that we've scoped, we send them a survey. And in that survey, we ask them for what were the reasons you chose us. We actually also send the survey to the ones who didn't choose us and ask them why as well. So one of our recent clients, I think she might even be here today, shared that really one of the things that caused that trigger for her to choose us was the fact that in the sales process, we had mentioned that we did a couple of projects for HubSpot themselves. So when you all bought HubSpot, you were probably introduced to Biglytics, which is this fake company that has a fake website and a fake HubSpot instance. So we created that for HubSpot. And so this client, you know, in going back and forth with her in the sales process, I must have mentioned it. It's not typically something I mention because it's not usually the type of project that clients are interested in. But I mentioned it to her and she mentioned it back to us that this was one of her deciding factors. So this now helps us in attracting. We can write blog posts about having done that. We can share that in our sales examples. So really getting that feedback from her helped us attract more matches.
Thank you, Latal. That's perfect. Now, the engage stage. In the old model, used to be attract, convert, close, and delight. Now, the convert and close stages are replaced with just engage. And again, not just sales, but everyone plays a role in engaging prospects and clients. And these are some of the ways that you can be engaging with your prospects and clients. And I'm going to hit Latal up again to see if she can provide us with a good example of this.
I can actually. So I've actually been handling a lot of our agency sales myself recently as we're transitioning between salespeople. And this engage stage is so real because you begin collecting information about the person you're working with. But I find that I also begin caring about what it is that they care about. So we as an agency, we don't have a specific industry focus, right? There are some agencies that only target attorneys. We're not like that. We have a cross industry focus. But when people will come to us, they're often innovators. They're doing something new in their space. And when they come to us, it's interesting, right? So we start thinking about it and researching about it. And as we all know, our phones are watching and listening to everything we do. So we had a prospect who was in the field of providing telehealth services, specifically in infectious disease, and it was a great time to do that post-COVID. And I was looking around and seeing some things, and then my phone popped up news articles around how Amazon is now getting into this business and all of this. So now I can, you know, interact with this lead, with this prospect, not necessarily trying to sell or anything, but like, hey, look, Amazon is getting into this. I know you probably already know, but to me, this says there's so much potential here. So it's really about getting involved and engaging with them, whether they're clients or prospects, or it doesn't matter what they are, but the fact that they're on your radar and you can reach out that way. In fact, I can also share that one of the things we do is we have an ideal client profile. And this is kind of a scorecard that we can use as we're engaging the client. So like I said, we don't have a specific industry fit, but we do find that certain types of companies we do better with. SaaS companies, education and edutech, anybody who's really an innovator in their field. So as we get to know our prospect, if they kind of fit into this box here, they'll get 20 points on this line. There are also certain industries that we don't want to work with. Adult pornography, firearms, gambling. If they're in any of those, we give them 0 points on that line. So we have 5 sort of areas that we assess them. Of course, your companies are going to be different. We're happy to share this with you so you can kind of rework it for what works for you. But as we're engaging, as we're getting to know our prospects, this is what we fill out, and we kind of better determine if they're going to be a fit. And it also enables us to answer questions in the right context for them.
Cool. Now, I think that hopefully brought home the fact that it's not just the external activities, but internal ones that can help you in these stages, especially from engaged into delight. You can delight your prospects and clients with the way that you rework your internal processes, because we know it costs more to get a new client than to retain one. So the customer success department isn't the only area in the company that's responsible for delighting customers and prospects. Every department can get involved. And here are a couple of the ways that you can enact delight. And Latal always has an example, so I know she has
Oh,
one.
you know I do. So my example about delight is actually somebody we were working with, again, in the sales process. He was a little bit too early stage of a startup, so he ended up not getting the funding round that he was hoping for. But as we were working with him, and we really believed in his model of he provided training for business clients. And as we were working with him, I remembered a client we had worked with years and years ago. And she provided a different service, but targeted a very similar persona. So I asked both of them if they wanted an introduction to each other. Maybe there's some collaboration they can do. Maybe they could pick each other's brains. They were both open to it. We made the introduction. Like I said, he ended up not being able to move forward with us for funding issues. But when we sent him the survey after the sales process, he was still thrilled with us. And he, on the NPS score, he still gave it, he was still a promoter. He's still going to recommend us, even though he didn't actually get to work with us, but just based on that sales process.
Ta-da. And that
This stuff works, you guys.
that is how the flywheel model brings everyone in the organization together to put the focus on the customer. Okay, so the flywheel model is about everyone being able to attract, engage, and delight prospects and customers, and every department we know now plays a part. Now, the flywheel is about how your customers can help you grow your business.
Did I jump ahead? I'm sorry. Oops.
No worries. It happens. So this is really about how customers can grow your business, not just you. So you all work together, and how fast you can drop, rather than how fast you can drop people into the top of the funnel and get them through the funnel. That takes us to force and friction.
I'm too slow. Okay, so force and friction. So like I told you guys, my dad is a physicist. So whether you heard it from my dad or remember it from Isaac Newton in science class, an object in motion stays in motion, right? So with the same speed and in the same direction, unless acted upon by an outside force. So when we talk about force, that's what you can apply to make your flywheel spin faster. And when we talk about friction, that's how you slow it down, right? So I'm going to put my prop away. So who can give us an example of force in your own flywheel? What do you do to make your flywheel spin faster, to get more customers, happier customers? What do you do? Go ahead and put that in the chat. And yes, a lot of your responses are kind of in line with ours. So on the marketing side, you could increase your lead generation. So some of you talk about more PPC ads, sponsoring content, whatever that is to increase your lead generation, that's force into your flywheel. But that's not the only way, right? That was the only way when we were talking about a funnel. You have to pour more in the top. But you can also improve your sales processes to increase your lead to customer conversion rate. On the service side, you can increase your percentage of reviews or your the good reviews. That all adds force to your flywheel. However, applying this kind of force often takes resources, which we don't always have, right? Increased lead generation, doing more PPC campaigns, that all requires budget. A lot of times, reducing the friction can be as impactful as increasing the force. Now, if you can do both at the same time, that's the win-win. But let's talk about friction for a minute as well. So what kind of friction is stopping your flywheel from moving faster? Go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Yes, exactly. So friction can be decreased traffic to your website, more competition, the competition releasing a new product. It can be being less responsive to leads than we want to be, right? Taking longer to respond to them. All of these can be sources of friction.
Now,
so go ahead, Christina.
No worries. Now we saw Latal's super fun prop. Now it's your turn. This is the interactive part of the section. We sent a link to a worksheet in the email invite for this event. And if you have it handy, get it ready. Latal will also share that in the chat as well, the link to that particular worksheet. But before you start down this road of creating your own, we're going to create one for you to watch as we map it against HubSpot as an example of how they map their flywheel. So with HubSpot in the attract stage, the way that they use items to attract people is to offer free content. We know they have a lot of great free content, and this really propels people into learning more about HubSpot. Mm-hmm. In the engage stage, they offer freemiums. So I don't know anybody who hasn't started with or still holds on to a free HubSpot seat. I still have mine. And then in the delight stage, they provide a really solid knowledge base. So there's a mix of guided and self-service education that makes it easy for the customer or even still the prospect to learn about HubSpot. Now, I know Latal's at the ready. She's drawn a flywheel on the spreadsheet, on the worksheet. Perfect. And now you're going to map force and friction based on the HubSpot example. If you've got your flywheel done, we'll give you just a little bit longer to draw that out. Okay. Now, if you got your flywheel on your worksheet all drawn out, or maybe just a sheet of paper if you weren't able to print.
So now that you have your flywheel drawn, we're going to add the force and the friction to it. So take a look at force. What are you currently doing that's moving your customers through the flywheel? Are you doing certain things that increase your website traffic? Are you giving education? Whatever that is, go ahead and map your force with arrows up of where you're adding force to your flywheel. Okay.
Now, friction. So now thinking about areas of friction in your lead or customer management process and what the possible solutions are. Maybe there's not a quick response, as quick a response as it should be to inquiries, to lead inquiries. Maybe there's a little bit of friction in the passing of information from marketing to sales. That can cause friction in your wheel. And I know some of you have more than one customer. You may be a B2B to C type of entity. So you have an internal and an external customer set. So you're going to have two different probably layers of force and friction that you're mapping on your wheel. Remember, it takes a village to turn a lead into a customer. So friction can come from any department, just as the solution to the friction can come from any department. So give you a minute to do that.
Yes, and give us a little thumbs up when you're ready to move on. Okay, and you can keep working a little bit. I'm just going to talk about HubSpot. So we are all here because we use HubSpot, and most of us love HubSpot. So HubSpot has a lot of tools that you already have access to that can help you with your flywheel. So let's talk about some of those sources of friction that you drew on your own flywheel. In the attract phase, it could be lead capture. So different sources of friction with lead capture. You're not capturing as much of the visitors as you'd like. You could have some friction around closing the customer or around delighting them. Let's talk about the HubSpot tools that can help you with this. So friction and force when capturing leads. So you can use the HubSpot tools that they offer, the chats, the bots, the forms, the pop-ups. All of these reduce friction when your leads, after you've attracted your leads, they're on your site, reduces friction in capturing those leads. By giving your potential customers the choice, right, of how they want to engage with you. Some of them may be comfortable with chat. Others may not want to chat. They might want to fill out a form. Give them the choice to be able to get in touch the way they want. Make it easier for them to get into your CRM. And that's really what the HubSpot tools do. When it comes to sales, so HubSpot Sales has playbooks you can use to close deals faster. You can quickly associate the deals. You can send follow-up emails from within the contact record, generate quotes to send over when your customers are ready. So all really purpose-built to be what you need when you need it. When it comes to delighting your customers, in the Service Hub, you can send out NPS surveys. You can provide multiple ways for customers to leave you reviews, whether you like your reviews on Google or on Facebook or something specific to your industry. You can provide knowledge-based articles for them to self-service. We're seeing a lot more customers wanting to get their own information before they interact with a person. So HubSpot really enables you to give your users all of these options.
And just some additional resources that you may already know about, or maybe you want to go ahead and just share these links with anyone else in your organization that would like to learn more about Flywheel, Inbound, or HubSpot in general. And if you have any questions or want to reach out about anything else around this topic, you can reach out to Latal or I on LinkedIn or directly by email. And just one note, thanks to a lot of feedback from you all, we've decided the next hug, which will be May 26th, the topic will be a focus on ABM. Yes, and we'll also share these slides in this recording
in the events section of HubSpot where you all registered for this, so that you can relive it over and over again. And so we'll transition now into kind of the networking part of our user group. I'll stop the recording, and thank you all for coming.